Welcome back to the pregame show here on the NECBL Broadcast Network. It is time for the Broadcasters Roundtable. Darren Zaslow with you here, field level at Cardines Field. To my left is Newport Gulls field reporter Dave Peck, and to my right, the voice of the Sanford Mainers, Justin Sawerski. Dave, let's start with you. Newport trying to avenge a 3-2 loss at Sanford off a Colby Mayola walk-off home run with one out in the bottom of the ninth inning. For Newport to rebound here tonight, what do they need to do?
Keep doing what they've been doing the last week. You know, they had a 5-game win streak going, and they fell to Sanford. But that's 5 out of 6, and you'll take that. You know, we talk about winning the week every time you go out there in the NECBL because you're playing so many games, and that's baseball. You know, it's going to happen. It was tough, you know, to see that come off the pitch from Matt Murphy, who's been so good, especially late in games for the Gulls so far. But, you know, they had 5 in a row. Tough one to Sanford. Fortunately for them, it was a Northern Division opponent, so there was no direct correlation as far as standings and that sort of thing. But, Darren, I look at this game tonight, and it's a great opportunity for them to kind of right the ship. They just played the Mainers, and it's a big week for them, and we've talked about it a little bit, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. So to get off on the right foot here on a Monday and start things up is going to be huge for them going down the stretch here.
Well, let's talk about why it's such a big week for this Newport team. The Gulls are 3 games behind the Mystic Schooners for the 3rd and final playoff spot in the NECBL's Southern Division. Dave, that is certainly a number that this team is going to keep an eye on.
They've been keeping an eye on it the past 2 weeks at least, and the person that's held that number has changed. It's been Danbury, it's been Mystic, it's been Plymouth, and those top 3, that 3rd place team has been shuffling a little bit. The Gulls still in last place in the Southern Division, but it's close. And with about 10 or so games left in the season, it's definitely a manageable number to get to. They just have to keep trusting the process. I've talked about it all season, trusting the process and putting together good at-bats, good innings, and good games.
Newport being led offensively by the Missouri product, Cameron Meisner. He has been spectacular this season for the Newport Gulls. Dave, fair to say he's been one of the major offensive catalysts this season.
He's been so good, and he's been here from day one, coming straight from his school in Missouri. He came here and was really a stalwart of this offense right off the bat, and you could tell just by his swing. The ball jumps off of it, and he has a great approach at the plate. I talked to him last week when we were going over his thoughts on the walk-off grand slam versus Mystic, and he just said, you know, I go up there and all I try and do is see the ball hit the ball, basically is what he said. And I was kind of trying to scratch and claw for a little bit more of his mental approach when he steps into the box, but he's kept it pretty simple, Darren, and he said, all I try and do is put it in play, and it's been working so far.
Justin, 2 very evenly matched teams. It's really a battle of the 2 worst offensive teams in the NECBL. Newport with a .230 team batting average. Sanford with a .231 team batting average. They're led offensively by the UMass Lowell product in Colby Mayola. He's hitting .328. Of course, we saw the walk-off home run, but how important has he been to this offense?
I think as a whole, you know, one of these guys that sparks the offense. He's got speed on the base pass. Outside of that, realistically, he's been an anchor out in center field, too. He started just about every game out in center field since he's joined the team a little over a month ago. But outside of that, you know, he's been hitting the ball real well. He's finding the gaps is the big thing. And you can talk about the fact that he's hitting .327. A lot of guys on this team are hitting the ball well. They just can't find the gaps. And that's really how baseball works. You know, Mayola obviously coming in clutch, and he's found that clutch situation multiple times now for Sanford. You know, a runner on in scoring position. He really gets the offense going. Game down in Plymouth that they lost in 13 innings back last Saturday night. You know, a big deal for them was to get on the board early, which they did. And Colby Mayola helped out with that. He had a 2-run home run against Plymouth in that game. And then obviously offensively, you know, they kind of shut down, lost in 13. But you know, he's really one of those guys that starts off this offense. He's a great leadoff guy. He's got power, and he's got speed.
Sanford 11-19 entering play here tonight, just 3 games behind the Keene Swamp Bats for the 3rd and final playoff spot in the NECBL's Northern Division. Justin, is that a number that you have to keep your eye on here throughout the final stretch of this season?
Absolutely, and there's one thing, you know, that I talked to you a little bit about pregame is that it's going to be between, in my personal opinion, it's going to be between Keene Vermont, and Sanford. And you know, so to take those three into consideration, Vermont's right up there as well. Right now, Sanford's big thing is trying to get the tiebreaker over Keene, because if those three are locked up towards the end of the season in that Northern Division, it's really going to be about who's beaten who more times. And right now it's split. Keene's won one game against Sanford. Sanford took the game at home against them, and you know, 3 more games in the next week against Keene. Those are going to be really the big ones. Obviously, this interleague game tonight against Newport is going to be huge, but looking onward, those are the games that they're really going to have to start paying attention to.
Sanford with a very enigmatic offense. When you look at this Mainers team, just 25 stolen bases. That is the fewest in the NECBL. A .231 batting average for the Mainers. We talked about it, the second worst. But, Justin, when you look at those numbers, this team is still in the hunt for the playoffs. Can you describe the offense and how important it is for them to kind of turn it around here?
Well, I think realistically, like I said, we talked about Colby Mayola. This team hits the ball well. They just haven't been finding the gaps, and sometimes that's what baseball is all about, is you're just not having a good season. You can't find, you know, where you want to put the ball. Outside of that, you talked about steals and stolen bases, 25 stolen bases. Harrison Ray's a guy that if he gets on base and it's a situation that presents itself for a steal, he's going to take a bag. You know, he's got 5 stolen bases right now for this team. Realistically, they're all about just putting a bat head on the ball and just finding good wood. And, you know, you see this team, you see situations where there are, you know, 1 on, 1 out, but a chance for a steal. They really don't like to take those chances. They trust their bats. They trust the guy at the plate. And sooner or later, I think for this team to start finding the holes, right now is the time to start doing it. But as mentioned, they're hitting the ball well, so there's no reason to be risking yourself in the base path.
It's Newport and Sanford here on Police, Fire, and EMT night. Newport 11-17 entering play. Sanford 11-19. First pitch set for 6:35. For Gulls field reporter Dave Peck and for the voice of the Sanford Mainers, Justin Saworski, I'm Darren Zaslow. Don't go anywhere. The Newport Gulls pregame show continues next right here on the NECBL Broadcast Network.